Hello and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh, and most Mondays, I won't say every Monday, but most Mondays, I try and do something called a Growth Strategy Podcast. And what I try and do is introduce you to interesting people from all around the world that I think can either add credibility to your business or career, give you some inspiration, and actually just share the stories of real people. And Darren, who I'm going to introduce you to today, is a great guy, and we were speaking off camera about how I'd seen a lot of stuff about him and Suitability around for quite a long time, but actually I didn't necessarily know too much about him as a person and what he does and that kind of thing. So I reached out to Darren and asked if he wanted to be a guest on the podcast, and which he kindly said yes. Basically, if you join us for the next kind of 30, 40 minutes, and these all get clipped up and go onto YouTube and stuff, hopefully you'll hear the stories of a great guy, some of the best experiences and advice and stuff he's had and why he does what he does, but hopefully it'll be really good kind of 40 minutes. So Darren, there we go. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello, yes. It's all a bit different, but yeah, we'll work with it.
So would you like to give just a very quick introduction about who you are, where you're from, before we go into a bit more of the detail on the background? Is that cool?
Yeah, so my name's Darren. I kind of live, so I was born in Sunderland. My day job work in Newcastle, and yeah, currently kind of reside in Gateshead. So I'm kind of a bit of everything from
Whereabouts
the
in Gateshead?
So kind of up in near Bladen.
Oh, okay, so I'm Lowfell, but it's
Look, yeah. So I mean, ideal for kind of just nipping out and getting ultimately what I kind of get the suits out, so it's all quite handy. Ultimately, yeah, kind of going grey and the bags are going kind of bigger, but other than that,
see, I just spend a fortune on lighting to hide the bags. That's cool. And hi Denise as well. Do you know Denise Nesbitt is one of the people I work with? Basically, I think there's a lot of people out there that they've seen you around, they love what you do, they love how it works. And actually, hopefully today, my hope is often when I do the live stream, the live bit, yes, you get some interaction, but when you clip it up and it goes into like the 3-minute, 5-minute best bits, which then gets reposted, is often what gets the most traction, because not everyone is available at 4 p.m. on a Monday. But actually, it's still great when people kind of reach out. So if anyone's got any questions, please kind of send them in and I'll kind of touch in. So what I love to do is generally find out more about your backstory and where you grew up and your character traits and stuff. But with your case, if that's cool, can we jump straight into Suitability, what it is, what it does? Because I think that helps kind of set the scene really well before we jump into it. So would you like to tell people about Suitability?
So kind of briefly, so I first met in a fantastic charity called SmartWorks, which kind of offer free interview clothing for women, and kind of I guess facilitated kind of a lady through my day job. We kind of visited, and that's where kind of the seed was planted. So I kind of saw the wonderful clothes that they had, the difference kind of clothing can make somebody feel and look and kind of empower, and kind of came away thinking, well, where's the men's service? And kind of that was almost a snowball effect. Kind of going from a few suits from family and friends to then getting kind of donations from businesses, wonderful people, people like Jason Manford, and it's gone or going from strength to strength. Yeah.
So on a basic level, Suitability helps give interview clothing to men in particular?
So so kind of, due to funding and whatnot and my day job, we try to keep it so simple so that, kind of ultimately, we, I guess, facilitate really good quality clothing. People have either donated or businesses, and, ultimately we facilitate that to the gentlemen, kind of in good time, so that they can, one, it's the hardship, unfortunately, it's the stigma of asking for help. But, kind of ultimately what I want to kind of eliminate or kind of, destigmatize is, somebody asking and kind of ultimately looking really, kind of, good to succeed. And I think the percentage that we've got is really good. The gentlemen that are going for interviews are looking and feeling confident. And even, the response when, we get the message back to say they've got the job is ultimately kind of motivation to keep doing what I'm doing.
No, I must admit, it's funny because the more often with many problems, when someone highlights them to you, you think, wow. But actually it's true that, if you're going for, like, job interviews are horrible things anyway, the pressure and the stress and the feeling that you're trying to impress someone. And again, if you were really self-conscious about something or whatever, not having the right clothes or not feeling that you have the right appearance for what's expected will both affect your confidence, but rightly or wrongly, it will also affect the person doing the interview on how they perceive you. So almost, I kind of get it. And then what kind of demographic do you normally aim for? Is it just any adult men, or is it just
So
anyone?
yeah, I tried to, because of, kind of, I mean, ultimately the main aim was to make it sustainable. The last thing I wanted was, kind of ultimately this really good social kind of initiative, and everybody think it was wonderful, but then, kind of if I had X amount of men referred in, you wouldn't be able to kind of facilitate. But, what we found last year was, kind of ultimately people couldn't go anywhere. There was no interviews, and that's where, we turned to the social, I'd say we, and I don't know, it's just what I've always done. It's just me. But, kind of utilizing, kind of what social media and the platforms to, kind of the best, kind of ability. One, we navigate to get suits in, but two, it kind of reaffirms, the partnerships that I've kind of generated with job centres. And that means, kind of all the gentlemen are guaranteed, but I can keep it controlled, so I can keep it sustainable, because, ultimately I want it to grow. We're looking at, ultimately kind of within the region. So yeah, I've supported, kind of, younger gentlemen. I think the oldest I've gone to is 60. And it's just having that ability to ask for support. One guy, we donated a shirt to. Other people, it might be a full suit. And it's just kind of ultimately is trying to make it as bespoke as possible for that individual. And at the minute, it's given them, kind of access to some free clothing. Going forwards, the aim always has been, the aim is to create the experience, where they're coming in and they've got that access, they've got that kind of support, they've got self-care products if that's something that they need as well. But then we can kind of then incorporate the confidence building, the interview prep. If we've got kind of some brilliant people kind of who want to look at becoming mentors dependent on sectors. So there's, there is going to be loads of scope going forwards. At the minute, it was just trying to keep it simple, because we, didn't know how COVID or things would kind of go moving forward. So, and just, enjoyed it.
No, it's honestly, it's class. It's funny because I'll ask you more about it a bit later on, but I love to set the scene. And then one of the things I always find quite interesting is just when you delve more into like the people's background and personalities and stuff. Obviously, you're a hugely kind of passionate person. You don't do this for money. You do it because you genuinely care kind of about people. But almost, where did you grow up in Blaydon?
No, so I grew up in a place called Ryhope, so near Seaham.
Okay.
So just kind of by the coast. So yeah, I think, kind of my parents were very much Sunderland, kind of through and through, would kind of maybe venture to Newcastle once or twice. And, when I first got the job that I'm doing now, and I'd mentioned I was working in Newcastle, it was almost like I was the black sheep of the family. So it was, but yeah, it's kind of, that's where we grew up.
Oh, cool. And what were you like at school?
Very sport driven. I enjoy I was more PE than kind of the education side of it. But, I'd always, kind of just wanted to be outside, and kind of even early teens, I was kind of gravitating towards, kind of more sports that I picked up. I was reasonably good at. And that's kind of where I was at school.
No, I've obviously got your CV and stuff next to me. Duke of Edinburgh, I did that as well. But it's similar, just almost weird. I had someone interview me recently, and so I did the Scouts thing, which is very similar, but the similar kind of path. But almost for me, when you do a lot of the outdoor team building kind of skills, you do learn a lot of really good positive character traits that I think follow you through. And almost, what did kind of Duke of Edinburgh like mean to you as you're going through it? What do you feel? Do you feel you actually learned like real life skills from it? It wasn't just a bit of camping and a bit of time.
No, I absolutely loved it. So yeah, kind of when I did that, I was, it was something that was a gradual. So, kind of, it was, I think I did the first and second, and then, I think the 2 years revisited and did the third one. But it was just kind of just lovely being out in, kind of, almost the teamwork and, kind of all that mixed into one. But you were with some, kind of lovely kind of friends. And and like, I think at the time it was more about, kind of feeling like you're an adult, and feeling like, kind of, putting your own tent up and then, kind of walking. But it was all, it was really well kind of, constructed, and kind of thoroughly enjoyed it.
But I find it quite funny because I think sometimes, depending on who I speak to, you kind of, I don't know why, but I seem to gravitate to different people because we've never really properly met, but kind of before.
No.
But it's just you get a vibe and you get a feel, and it's surprising how many people have similar backgrounds and interests and upbringings. Even though I grew up in Liverpool and you grew up in Sunderland, I think often when you do stuff like Duke of Edinburgh, it can really help build character that I think lasts into through your entire life. But I find it funny that when as you grow up and you go into business and you build your business networks and your circles and stuff, it's funny, especially with age, you seem to gravitate to people that share your similar values and backgrounds and ethos. And it's funny that people seem to come into your life and you find links that you didn't know were there.
Yeah.
Until just now. And I spoke to a guy called Chris on the podcast probably a few months ago, and it turns up he actually grew up on the street next to mine back in Liverpool. And we'd never met to each other, and he's based in Leeds. And it's always funny how things kind of link together. So how after school did you go to uni? What did you do next?
So I didn't get the grades, kind of ultimately that I was kind of looking for. So I think, kind of even like what my day job now, when I look back.
And what's the day job?
So my day job, I kind of work for a charity. So we support anybody who's got any mental or physical health barriers looking for employment, education or training.
Cool.
But when I look back, so I was very, kind of navigated where, kind of most of my friends were going. I was probably doing the same kind of thing. And I'd always had the interest of kind of psychology and, kind of people and how people's minds work. And I'd always had that, kind of the background, but then I was very sport driven. So, kind of I went to college. I did a year of, so basically kind of, I'm a basketball coach, football coach, table tennis coach, netball coach, and I absolutely loved it. It was things where I worked at, following leaving school, worked at a leisure centre at Seaburn, and I, on a weekend I was there every weekend for, I think it was 5+ years. But I would, I was really driven by, kind of really getting involved and going in and doing the sports with the kids, and I think that's what kind of pushed me. And then during the week, I kind of went from college to do more kind of sport and exercise, and then eventually went to Sunderland Uni and did kind of sport and exercise development there. So it was kind of looking at what the barriers would be to something and how you navigate around them, and so it kind of transitioned in.
Just to explain, I accidentally knocked out my earpiece. So it went,
right.
So you suddenly went quiet, and I was like, I can't hear anything. So that's why I was trying to plug it in. I just thought I'd explain.
It's all right.
But I do think it's funny that with the competitive sports, again, I guess all sport is competitive, but again, it's the way that you build teams and get to know people. And one of the big things for me, it was the same when you've done because you're FA level 1 football coach and stuff. What I love is that how when you've got a group of people, and it's making sure that everyone feels part of what you're trying to do. So you're blatantly going to have your better players, but then it's making people part of a team and how they contribute. And it's, that's true in life, that again, there's a lot of kind of similarities that, these are skills that you can help bring people on without patronizing them. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a really important kind of bit to it.
No, and I think even kind of growing up, because I was never, I was probably the smallest in my team, it was always... But I played, basically left back, in defence, and and I remember, kind of even, saying to my parents that that's where I'm right-footed, but playing left back. But it was, it was something that, because I had everybody around me that realistically kind of picked me up. It was like, kind of I just excelled. I enjoyed it, and I played from, I think it was, early, kind of early years all the way up to, I think it was, kind of 18. So before I went to pub team. So, but having the right people around you kind of certainly, kind of supported me, I guess.
And then what did you do then all the way like through to today? I guess, what were your jobs and careers and stuff like? And then at what point did you think when did you discover the idea to start Suitability?
So, so when I'd left, so I was at university, and so kind of, I'd always been kind of wanting a support role. I'd always, I think, when I worked at the leisure centre, and I'd often, when I was doing the football coaching and things, and I was very driven towards, kind of kids with disabilities, and, and ultimately trying to give them ways and means of joining in with everybody else. And I'd started kind of going away and looking at, kind of setting up little groups and, really kind of, interacting with kids. And I think that's where it first came about. I kind of wanted to look at, support work roles. And I thought, well, the best way to do it is just going and trying it out. So I'd, kind of looked at, the local ads and things. And I started work as a support worker for just a young guy. So unfortunately, been kind of in a car accident, and wanted the same quality of life, and that's what I did. I did that for a year, so I supported him, and then from that went and started work with. Unfortunately, the gentleman I worked with, he was a year younger than me and had been in a car accident and was coming to the end of the court system, so to speak. And I was given generally the lifespan of a support worker is about kind of 3 years at the time that I was told, and 13 years later I was still there. So I'd kind of it was a lovely experience, very much it was about, kind of breaking down the barriers, finding a problem and finding the solution. So, he was told he'd never walk or talk, and he completely, smashed that. And then it was all about, kind of integrating him back into society. So my role was to, it was brilliant because, we would go to the gym, or we'd go out with his friends, or, but it was all the life skills of, just general, kind of, as he was growing older, it was all about, kind of, things in the house or shopping, or all the bits of doing that with everything else kind of all in. And I took on a few more kind of service users, or what they were called at the time, and kind of absolutely loved it. And then, as I say, kind of 2017, so I'd been there 13 years, and kind of just was in a lovely little routine, had the ability or flexibility, I guess, with family life and all that kind of kids. And then he basically kind of looked at always wanting to move to the Lakes. So, kind of when I look, it was, basically I was made redundant, but it was, kind of, I was quite fortunate that they transitioned, in a period of time. So I had enough time to job search and go for interviews, and, with kind of still having the security of ultimately being paid. And then, kind of saw this employment advisor came up, and I thought, well, kind of, the job spec was very much, kind of all the bits that I was doing on a daily basis, but not the employability side of it, as well as Newcastle, which I'd never, I'd maybe venture in, to see Phoenix Window with my family on a Christmas, but that was it. And then I just thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. Went, I was quite lucky. I kind of had access to a suit, and I was probably one of the guys that you see standing in Starbucks with an empty briefcase because you felt important, after the interview. And when I look back, so I wasn't successful. I wasn't kind of the first choice or anything like that. But I was always, I was looking at, even going in as rehab assistant because of my background, and they were the general things that I was looking at doing, really supportive roles, but that next personal development. And then 2 weeks later, got a phone call saying, congratulations, we've got extra funding. We'd love you to kind of come and work. So it was that was the moment where, you suddenly think, right, how am I going to do this? But as I say, kind of, it was really pushed on to, I didn't know Newcastle, I didn't know any of the services, my role. So, somebody would come on the program, and we do kind of what we call a suitability. So we basically get a synopsis of what their barriers are, but then it supports us to, generate, kind of, ultimately or facilitate a journey or a pathway to, whether that be employment, education or training. But we've got the ability to make it bespoke. So if that's confidence building or, upskilling, we can look at kind of doing all that. So my role was very, kind of pushed on to go and network. And I'd never done that before. I'd never, had to email people. I was very much from my little bubble in Durham, where, kind of I would just turn up to the same guy's house for 13 years. And, and I think it was for me, it was again the confidence
Yeah.
of going to job fairs, or kind of going, and as soon as I had the lanyard on, I was fine.
Invincible. It was like your shield.
Yeah, I worked for a company, and and I would go out and I would promote what I was doing, and that was kind of, I think, the first taste of what networking and kind of getting that little bit of or the ability to talk to people, which I'd never necessarily had in the past.
But what I think is quite funny is that I think almost people who do support type roles have got to be super nice people. There's a lot of people out there that aren't as nice as you are. But actually, it's funny when you see the character traits of people that I think it takes really special people to want to work and help with.
Yeah, there's
people.
got to be, kind of show empathy and have that, kind of. I think even just to get up, and because some days, and it was often, where once kids came along, and it was, you're ultimately you're leaving all your baggage, so to speak, at home, but as soon as you walk through the door into kind of ultimately what I was doing, the gentleman's kind of house every day, that had to be that was separate, but it was it was a lovely experience. I mean, I was fortunate to travel the world, and we would we definitely kind of had that special bond. And I think as support workers, yeah, you have to have that, have to be able to get on with people, and kind of sometimes if you don't meet eye to eye, you've got to have your mechanisms to put in place to kind of revisit. So yeah, it was challenging, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Because the other thing as well is that because you'd almost been through, I think anyone that's had rejection, because I imagine when you went for that job, you really wanted it.
Oh yeah,
and it's when you go for something and you've got your heart built up to it, and you get the email or the phone call that says, unfortunately, it's heartbreaking. That actually, when you then come to work with people that are in that process, you just understand it more. And I do think the job hunting or job seeking or whatever, and I'm fairly qualified, but oh my God, it is, it's tough. Yeah. And again, the fact that there is somewhere that people can go to get advice and support and stuff. And, a lot of people I think do need the helping hand. And I just think it's brilliant. And likewise, when you actually said about the suitability test, it clicked in my head about the dual meaning for the word, which made me think it was a really clever name for the charity and stuff. But I love, that's just really good marketing. It's very clever. And I hadn't picked up on it kind of until now.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I hadn't, because, this was, even looking at logos, and, there's so many things that you can link into now, and there's so many people that ultimately you pay somebody to do something for you, but kind of at the time it was like, well, I don't have any money to pay anybody, so it was very much, and it I think kind of what we were briefly talking about before was it's that learning experience. And I think my day job certainly kind of supports, half the time I don't know which kind of hat I'm wearing, because all of my networks were already kind of linked up. I'd already knew of the services and how they run, and ultimately I never wanted Suitability to be this kind of charity shop, because charity shops are set up and they do incredibly well for what they're set up for. And I always wanted to have this vision where kind of it was gentlemen coming in and having an experience and really feeling like you would in a retailer, but taking that barrier of the monetary value out of it. And that's why I'd always basically set it up where it was for free. I've had people say, well, why aren't you charging? And it's kind of, that defeats the whole point. We can facilitate really good quality clothing, but to people that ultimately just want to they've done all the hard bit of getting the interview. It's this the end product.
No, honestly, I think it's class, because the name on many levels is really good, which is sounding great marketing. But almost, it's slick, it's nice, it looks premium. Because that's the thing I've noticed, that obviously you call them all gentlemen, so there's a nice feeling of prestige there. It's not a charity, in the terms of that you might feel bad. It sounds like it's a really good experience, and which is really good and important kind of people. And out of interest, how long, as you say, 2017 that you set up?
So it was, I think, early, it was 20, I think I'd had the idea, I'd gone, so the idea all came about by basically kind of, I'd gone to SmartWorks, kind of, maybe a Tuesday with this lovely lady who went away and got the job. So I'd seen firsthand how it worked and how simple, kind of it was. And kind of, I'd gone away and kind of, we were on a training course, so social enterprise, with my day job, and kind of around the table we all had to come up with an idea, and that was, you had to just pitch it to your colleagues, and I was only kind of newly in the role. So, people were going, oh, well, I'm going to, kind of a flying car, or, a kind of a rocket, or kind of really kind of crazy ideas, because it was just a bit of a team building exercise. And I said to my colleague at the time, I said, oh, I'm going to do, kind of, realistically, the male version of, kind of what SmartWorks is. So he said, oh, kind of what would you call it? And that's where I'd kind of just went, oh, well, we wrote a few kind of things down. And then, it's before you have to kind of look at, has anybody else got the name, or what is everybody else? Is there somebody else doing it? But it was just kind of, so pitched at the group, and it was, I think the course was ran through the BIC, and one of their advisors were like, that's brilliant. You need to look at how you can do that. Kind of, it's something that is needed. It's, kind of, but how do you do that with a full-time job, kids, and everything else? So
but I think that's almost when you blatantly have your passion project. You've got something which you love doing, and because one of the things I love is following your social media, because you post every time someone gets a job and stuff, and it shows the impact. How and where can people follow you on socials?
So I'm on, so we're kind of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So that all came about. Never had any social presence really, and never necessarily needed to. I'd had maybe a LinkedIn for my day job, but then kind of the social platforms all kind of came about when lockdown first came. So I'd had kind of, unfortunately, it was 40 people with mental health problems. Kind of, we were a check-in, so nobody was going for jobs, no one was going for interviews, and it was kind of, I think I'd had about 100 suits or so at the time, and stored in my parents' garage and loft, and kind of, I said to my partner, so she does this, kind of Instagram little foodie group, and before kind of COVID had hit, they often used to get kind of invited to places, or they'd get free, kind of meals. And she, I'd said to her, kind of, I'm going to set up these, kind of the social media kind of bits. But she'd kind of said, well, if, keep it simple, so.
So do you have at Suitability?
Yeah, so it's all at Suitability.
You've absolutely nailed this one with the name and the handles.
Yeah.
So many people have random ones that
So no, I mean, luckily nobody had it at the time, and again, it was kind of because I didn't necessarily I didn't have any, still don't have any money, but kind of I went away, and kind of 2 days later the mannequin came through the door, and it was kind of, and for me it was my own mental kind of support. I was able to kind of not, because my day job, it's it's so hard to try and not relate to people, because of the circumstances. So I need an outlay, but I need to kind of, because I didn't necessarily know how long COVID was going to last. So that's what I was doing. I bought a mannequin. I would, on a weekend, I'd be kind of taking some photos. I had this camera that was in a box that I'd always wanted to do photography, but I'd never, I just went out and bought an expensive camera, and just, it was always under the, kind of under the bed, so to speak. So I was quite pleased with myself, because I was like, oh, actually, I'm using this camera, but how do I, kind of generally, make it as easy as possible? So that's where the social platforms kind of all came about. And I think, from then it's, probably 90% of, the suits that have been donated, or the partnerships that have been made, have all came from, kind of virtual, kind of the platform. So I try to make it as accessible. So I've got people kind of reaching out on Facebook, or I've got a guy who runs a beard company who reached out on Instagram, and a sock company, they're donating clothes in, and it's all about kind of, and for me, I've got the ability. I mean, I'm not on my phone as what I used to be. Kind of through lockdown, it was kind of, I'd be entering all these competitions, and but I've got the ability to kind of interact with people, which is lovely. And that's what, as you say, kind of, and it's lovely to hear when you're saying it's from a business point of view, because I've never had any experience. It was all just kind of this transitional, kind of process.
No, cool. I've got a question for you. And hi, David. So there's a guy called David Winter that edits all my videos, and I'm going to, obviously, entrepreneur myself, but I when I deal with people on a weekly basis, and I almost want to pick your brains, is that a lot of people are scared to start. So when you first got the idea, did you take lots of really small, like, baby steps? As
I'd always been told, well, kind of don't say anything, kind of, because ultimately get your business plan and whatnot, and I'd always wanted that, kind of, I guess the confidence, because, I was trying to say to people, well, I'm not reinventing anything. There's a wonderful women's, kind of service, but there just isn't anything for men. And even if, and I still say the same, even if somebody else wants to do the same thing, that's brilliant, because that brings kind of so much to the region. And that's where, going forwards, I then started reaching out to other charities that do the same thing. So I've Suited and Booted, SmartWorks, head office, kind of Shareware, and now, and they were services that would never have interacted really. And then we all had a partnership meeting a couple of months ago, which it was lovely, because it was kind of, I got the invite and it was, oh well, actually people are seeing as this service of,
honestly, I think it's excellent, and it's great on every level. And I always enjoy it. Do I always enjoy this? I enjoy this most of the time. Sometimes you have chats with people and it's atrocious, but I'm really enjoying this. But again, it's almost that when you get a lot of entrepreneurs that want to, or they have started a business, but they see the gap between where they currently are and where they want to be as being so big that it stops them from doing anything. As where, for instance, if I imagine, how long did it take you from when you got the name to say, okay, let's see if I can get the handle on Twitter?
Oh, it was, no, so I had a good friend who, kind of, he was, he set up, all I've got is a, kind of a standalone kind of point of contact website.
It's still good.
Yeah, well, and it works, and it's, and we'll get there, and we will, kind of, we'll get a, more of a structural site. But I think once I'd got the Twitter handle and things, it was like, oh, right, but then I think when I'd first started even posting just kind of generalized bits, I think I would really, if the spelling wasn't right, and I'd often kind of, pass it to my partner, does that all look, kind of, how does that sound? But then I'd found, and I think even, I might get 1 like or 2 likes, and I used to kind of look at it, not necessarily kind of make you feel like, well, that might have, from getting a referral in to then sourcing the suit and then getting it out to the gentleman, then, but for me, it was that process, and I can share that process, and it's that engagement that is lovely, because I've always said from the start, if that one person, the right place, the right time, just sees it, then, kind of, it could go anywhere.
But especially because what you do all to do with confidence, and, I've been there when your confidence is low, especially when you're job hunting and stuff, that often just knowing someone that's very likable, that actually you can pick their brains and just helps you basically get your life back on track, or help you get that next thing. Honestly, I think it's spot on. I think I'd like it so much more now than I did 40 minutes ago before we started, just because when you get to know the people behind it, that you've essentially gone through an entrepreneurial startup journey. It just happens to be for a community interest company, but actually the process, and I think you've just nailed it. You've got the name right. You're not afraid to start. You see a lot of people where they don't launch the website because they're worried it has to be Amazon, perfect in every way. It's like, no, just do it. And I think the more people that buy into what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, they'll forgive the odd typos or whatever. It's about the reason.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's class. I am conscious of your time, and I know how busy you are and stuff as well. Before we kind of start to wrap up and stuff, I would love, especially for you and everything that and people that you've kind of met with, what's the best piece of advice you ever had?
Just enjoy what you're doing. I think, like, kind of, as you say, for me, it was not necessarily knowing what would happen, especially kind of 12 months plus, and I think, having that ability to kind of even turn to, kind of people who are, kind of doing what they're doing. I think, I've been very fortunate the last 12 months that, I've been invited to, kind of speak with people, or, which for me, it's nice now, because I'm learning how to listen as well. I've been on, kind of calls where, I've kind of almost felt like I've almost had to try and sell myself, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm trying to do. And, and I had one gentleman was just kind of, the reason why I've connected with you is because I love what you're doing, and I follow you, and it's that kind of, he basically kind of said, well, just listen and ask, kind of, if you need support, or if you need some help, it's, and which is funny, because, ultimately that's what I'm trying to kind of
tell the people.
Destigmatize is asking for help. And I think, kind of, I found, last year was was one of the moments where, you know, using social media to kind of come to your support is where, you know, I had 500-600 suits in my parents' garage and loft.
Wow.
And it was just not, you know, it was kind of, I think it was the hottest month or whatever. And it was, you know, kind of my parents had said, you know, kind of we need to do something. And I obviously didn't have any funds, but I was prepared to kind of, you know, pay out of my own pocket for some storage. So I, you know, kind of you turn to social media, I think I put a tweet out on the Tuesday. The Wednesday I had a managing director of a storage company. And then the Friday I had the keys to a 20-foot storage unit for 9 months for free. And, you know, and I think I mean, getting the suits in, I'm all over kind of, you know, the amount of letters that I've sent to Next and other businesses and, you know, and kind of the rejections and all that. It was kind of, you know, but then when you get that one where it's actually, we love what you do now. Yeah, we'll send you X amount. And, you know, it's that kind of level of now when people are, you know, kind of almost interacting, and it's lovely, you know, kind of because they'll say, if there's anything I can do, I'd love to support. And I think now it's, you know, kind of where I am kind of within the business is that pivoting point. You know, it's, you know, my goal was always having community hubs and things to support more of the region and have it more accessible. But that was always the 3-year, 5-year goal. You know, the aim was always to get, you know, kind of a main headquarters, you know, men would come in, have a consultation, choose stuff off the rack and away they'd go.
Yeah.
But funding, obviously, is the barrier. And I hadn't looked at, I'd always kind of had that. And, you know, and for months I was going, well, it's the funding. I need to chase the funding. And obviously, COVID, there was a lot more services that needed that funding. You know, ultimately I was, you know, supplying, you know, kind of good quality suits. But then it was kind of, well, actually, yeah, I don't need to just kind of just be like, right, that's my sticking point, right? How do I navigate around that barrier? And then it's, you know, kind of reaching out to all these lovely services to say, well, actually, yeah, I went to Sunderland Uni. Is there anything we can kind of do? And that's where the partnership with the, you know, the graduates came about. And, you know, even I've got a lovely Gateshead company that, you know, they'd seen what I was doing purely on a post that I'd liked, that they were out. And, you know, their SOS group in Gateshead, and, you know, and they've now facilitated their drop-off point for me.
Wow.
You know, if I can get some office space, they're going to supply all the equipment, you know, and I think I would never have asked for that, you know, I would never, because I would always have just said, well, you know, kind of other people have got their own bits to deal with. And I think it's, you know, kind of, I guess the ethos with Suitability is keeping it simple. You know, I've got loads of things that I want to do and umbrellas of services and things, and being able to, you know, kind of bring loads of things in. But at the minute, it's kind of, well, actually, like, one, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And, you know, and it's, you know, as I say, I think we're over 1,000 suits, you know, but it's fully sustainable, you know, and it's that kind of, you know, it's lovely when you get, you know, people commenting and lovely people like yourself saying, when are you free? I'd love to have a chat and pick your brain. So, yeah.
Honestly, I think it's incredible. I'm going to ask you the next question before I go on to, otherwise it'll ruin my YouTube links and day working when it comes to edit. If you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick any age, you can pick the person at school, the person that didn't get the grades, the person that, you know, whatever you want, what would it be?
Just be, I think, be more resilient. I think,
Nice.
you know, kind of, I think when, you know, kind of, and I think it was that kind of pathway of not getting the grades that, you know, and it's very similar. If you don't get the job that
I understand.
you're applying for, then, you know, kind of, and I am a firm believer of, you know, kind of things do happen for a reason, you know, and it was having that, you know, kind of that, you know, I was sent on a completely different pathway, but that's, you know, kind of ultimately that's supported me in where I am now.
It is funny how times of rejection can actually steer your path. So, you know, you could argue I'm doing what I'm doing now because of times of challenge.
Yeah. No.
And it's funny that the more, one of the things that I see more and more, and I, you know, ask you off air almost about, you know, it's people that do want to start their own business or have already started, it's a little side hustle, whatever, but they don't necessarily know where to go to get guidance, or there's a lot of blockers or barriers which are really expensive. And the more that I do what I do and the more people I speak to, the more I want to help more people. But, you know, again, I give away 50% of the courses, if not more, to really help them. It's just give people advice to something or access to something that they otherwise might struggle to do. And it's almost, I rarely relate to what you're doing, because part of my mission is I really want to do that more and more and more. And it's almost, you know, for me, I've only been going for 6-7 months doing the roadmap stuff. But actually, my 3 to 5 year goal is to just help more and more people, just to, if they want to launch a business, to do something, or a charity or whatever, just some of the techniques and stuff that you can learn. But the point is giving it away for free, so there's no barrier there, and certainly no stigma. And I think I love what you're doing. So that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
No, cool.
Oh.
So before we kind of wrap up and stuff, how can people get in touch?
So just on the various platforms, I think it's. I mean, kind of just at Suitability or LinkedIn or, kind of anything that people want to kind of feel, that they're, kind of ultimately using, whether it be Facebook, and kind of if they've got questions or emails, I'm always, kind of open to, kind of answering anything that way as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, I've genuinely enjoyed today. Really, really have. I think what you do is super inspiring, and I love people that do stuff for the right reasons as well. You get far too many people that do stuff, but they do it with a slight agenda to make money or whatever. But actually, it's not just what you do and how many people you help, but it's the impact that can have. Because actually getting people into work isn't just like a one-off charity kind of payment. It's sustainable employment that then can help them get the next job and the next job.
It's I mean, even, kind of, and I've got the ability now, which, kind of ultimately, last year was very, because I was doing at LinkedIn with Citizens Advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was almost kind of creating this pilot model of ultimately virtual fittings. And, I was doing suits for funerals, unfortunately, because all the charity shops were shut. But I had the ability to do that, and for me, kind of even, kind of, my partner or my parents, that for me was my dad's very kind of, well, how are you going to make money on it? But that's the drive for me to kind of almost show them, well, actually, this is, kind of what I'm doing. But I think it's that kind of, that lovely experience that, kind of, now that Suitability is kind of sustainable for this year, it's kind of looking at growing, but it's having that ability to bring other people in that want to do exactly the same. I'm looking at, these hubs and these, kind of, if people want to then, kind of personal development or if it's something that they want to do, I've got that ability to grow, kind of the business, but with the help of other people as well. And I think that's, because I know it's never going to be able to be just me. I can then, I think that day where suddenly it'll be a team of us, kind of it'll be a bit daunting. But I think it's quite exciting.
What's the dream?
Ideally to do it full time. Kind of the aim for me is to do more stuff like this, kind of go out and get the partnership meetings and, really kind of collaborate with some, wonderful businesses, but have, kind of like what SmartWorks, a head office. Men can come in and, kind of my vision is a Chesterfield chair and a coffee machine and, and create this experience where, kind of they've been referred in, but they leave completely, kind of, and more hubs. More hubs around the region.
I think that's often part of the challenge is that you need to have the vision. You've got the idea to what to do. And then obviously I'll definitely get you on again in the future. And it's that progress that over time, so this time next year, you might actually have the office. But the year after, and then the year after you might have more make it feel like a bespoke tailor kind of, it's all of the point is it doesn't have to be done straight away. Like I've got dreams, aims and goals, but just your approach to pivot and change and see what works and doesn't and learn and stuff, I think you'll be kind of super successful. So thank you for your time today. This all gets clipped up by David. Thank you, David, onto YouTube. And then it also goes on to Google and iTunes and stuff as a podcast. And then what I'll also do, because I know you're really hot on Twitter as well. Twitter does cap it to 240 seconds. So I'll take some like super mini clips and stuff. But it's almost, I think I always advise people to do more video, because actually not everyone, but you get a really good vibe of someone's personality and what they're like and their mannerisms and stuff. And some people aren't suited to it, I'll be honest, but I think you would, be able to accelerate even more the more you can kind of, share your story and stuff. And it's just, I think you'll kind of inspire and get a lot of people hopefully more aware of what you do, but then likewise just, they'll, I believe, buy into you as a person and your backstory. It's very authentic and stuff.
No. Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time. Hopefully we'll catch up soon. And it's great to kind of meet you.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Cheers, mate. And thank you a lot. Bye.